And welcome everybody. I'm so glad you guys are here. This is the fifth week, the fifth session on create modules and structure for how to build our Canvas course. And this is a really, foundational topic. It's basically going to cover 3 ways that you control how your students move through and access materials in your course. So I'm sharing my screen, and on the left-hand side, I've got that asynchronous resource that I've been referring to each week, and that's out on the internet for everybody to be able to refer back to, especially for so many people are booked solid and can't make it to the live sessions. So the first thing in the list I'm going to talk about, and the first of those 3 ways we control the structure of our courses through the course navigation menu. So my demo here is going to have this black bar. That's the global navigation, and this is going to always be visible no matter where I'm at in Canvas. It's global, meaning everywhere. I can minimize it down a little bit to get rid of the words, but it just doesn't go away. This global navigation will also have a couple of additional icon buttons added to it for UIW resources and library resources. And that's going to be a nice feature once they're done developing it. It will slide out and have that information. So no matter where you are in Canvas, no matter what course you're in, that information will follow. So we're going to talk about the second area, this course navigation, and I'm going to control this in my settings. So down there at the bottom, I clicked settings, and then I'm going to go to the third tab, navigation. And it's pretty straightforward. It's going to have 2 areas. The top area is going to be what is going to be turned on and accessible to students. And then the bottom area, you drag items here to hide them. So if I don't want to have discussions and I want to just hide that link, I can just move it down and drop it. But I do want to keep my discussions because I am going to use them. And you'll notice as you scroll down, there's just a lot of choices. These include all of the applications that have already been turned on for your access. So this week I got a question on StudyMate. Someone had been using StudyMate in Blackboard. They said, did it come over with Canvas? Yes, and all she had to do was drag StudyMate up to her area so she could get to it. Scroll down to the bottom and click save. And then click the link to go ahead and continue and sign in. So pretty straightforward. So just definitely take a look at what's available in that list if there is something that similar that you are wanting to have. Okay, so keeping in mind if the way Canvas is interconnected, right, there's going to be multiple ways in my course navigation that my students are going to get places. And so I'm going to show you the student view so you can think about that while I'm talking. The home I have set to my front page, and that's that welcome landing. They say high quality course. It's going to, welcome our students. I'm going to talk about my, purpose and my instructional goals and kind of give them a heads up. And then of course, replaced with my own custom video that I've made welcoming them. Hello, this is my course. Well, this page could also have a page link and they could get there a secondary way, but I've hidden pages. So they only see this because that's the way I've controlled the structure of my course. Syllabus, they're going to be able to come over here, and this is going to be the only place that they'll see the syllabus information at the top, but the course summary, everything that's populated in here, they also would be able to get to through the calendar. The announcements area, they're going to see this when they come through this link, and then they'd also have some information about announcements that's going to pop up in their course stream. So there's 2 ways that they can see announcement information. Modules, everything that I put in a module is going to have an alternative way to get to it. So modules is going to be my collection so that I control this structure, which is going to be the second way we're going to talk about today. But if I put a link to a discussion in my modules, they can also get to that discussion through my discussion link. If I put assignments in my modules, they can also get to the assignments through the assignments link.
Can I ask you something, Melissa? Whenever
Yeah.
you do an announcement, and I know that you had the option to do like a reply or things like that to the announcement, right? So when I had used that tool, the students can't see anything. So I don't know if what am I doing wrong. They can see when I have an announcement. I know you can restrict how many announcements you want to be displayed at once. But what is that option of or that tool of reply to an announcement? What is that about?
Okay, so I've opened up a new announcement and I am not sure what exactly you're talking about. So
Yeah,
announcements don't have a reply option, but they can comment.
or whatever it was called, reply, comment, yeah, something like
Comment
that.
right here.
So do they see the comments, or what do the comments go to you, to the class? That's I don't know. I'm just asking. I
Um,
was not familiar with it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would need somebody to make a comment for me to know. So I have this turned on in my resource course. Whenever I come into my dashboard, which is, we'll take a little sidetrack here to take a peek at it. It takes just a second to load, but when I make an announcement in my resource course to the 200 and something people that are enrolled, I come over to my announcements and I turn that feature on. Of those 200 and something people, no one has ever made a comment. So I would need somebody to actually do it before I could find out what exactly happens.
Okay.
Reasonably, I would say off the top of my head, it's going to make a comment just like it would in the discussion board, and everyone can see the comment. But again, to know absolutely for sure, I would have to experience it, and then we can talk about that further.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. And then, of course, when you create an announcement and you click save and it posts, it does send an email out to everyone who's enrolled in your course. They control that behavior through their account. So notifications, everyone has the option to go over to their notifications and say what they want to happen. They control that. Okay, so I'm gonna actually come back into my course. Give me just a second. And I'm working in my RSO academic shell demo. And I was basically talking about the student view and how the course navigation can just create multiple ways to see information. So keep that in mind. If you're wanting to control the structure of your course rigidly and really only give them access to certain things at certain times, you're going to need to think about that and how you set up your course between the navigation options and the second part of what we're going to talk about, how you can control modules. So really, modules control the entire flow of your course. Every item that is placed within a module, so each row is going to be a different item, whether it's a page, an assignment, a discussion board, a quiz, doesn't matter what it is you added, because you put it in this order, description and overview will have a next button created automatically on the page that goes to the item that comes next. Then there will become a previous button to go backwards. And it just next, 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 all the way through every single row that you've created in your course. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm referencing. At the bottom, I now have a next button. This is because I used modules and I put items in the module. So when I click next, the thing that's next and previous goes through just like a book. If I don't like what's coming next, I need to control that in the order of which I've put my stuff. So really basic, controls everything. If you don't use modules, then students do not have a next previous way to get to what they're trying to do, and you would have to recreate something manually to get them around everywhere they were going, which I don't recommend. Modules is just a really easy tool that will help them know, what do I do next, or where am I going next? So I'm going to collapse all my modules, which means all the individual items are hidden, and I'm just looking at the different boxes that I've created to organize, or that were created in Blackboard and transferred over into my Canvas space. So for this particular course, I've got my orientation first. I have an optional module that I'm not going to use. So I have some ways to move things around. I can drag and drop, or I can come over here and use the 3 dots to say move the module. And I can say put it at the bottom and say move, and it will just throw it down to the bottom and be out of my way. If I have a module unpublished, it's completely invisible to the students. They will not see it in any way whatsoever. However, if I want to come in and say lab 1, I want to edit, I can choose to lock lab 1 until the first day of class. For whatever reason, if you have a date and time that you want to release a module, you can do that. Check the box, put in your date and time, which I am going to put May 10th. And I'm going to put 8 a.m. because that's, a reasonable morning time for it to open. Say done. And then I'm going to say update my module to save my change. Now what you'll see, there's a little note here that's saying it will unlock May 10th at 8 a.m. Students will be able to see this information, but they just won't be able to get into it, and it will tell them that it's locked until the time you've set. So remember, unpublished means they can't see it at all. It's going to magically appear once you turn it on, which can be very disorienting to your students. But a date release will let them at least see what's coming up and just not be able to access. You'll notice that when I clicked edit, I also had more choices. So I'm going to actually turn this off, and I'm going to look at my other options. Prerequisites and requirements. A prereq is exactly what you know a prereq to be. I have to do something first before I can do what comes next. Prereqs are only going to show up as an option in modules after the very first one. So you can't give a prereq to the very first module because there's no way to do anything before that because it's the first module. Once you get into the second module, you will then have a drop down of what came before it. When you get into the third module, which is where I'm at, you have the 2 options that came first, and so on and so forth as you move down. The last module will have every choice that came before it, but the system is smart and it's only going to give you the options for what you can feasibly do with the choices. So I'm in the third module, so I have the first and the second to make as a prereq. This is really nice if you want to make sure students have done everything in chronological order. So I'm going to select one, and then I'm also going to see that I can add more than one prereq. So you would build this in a scaffold manner. If you want them to do the first 2 modules before they do the second, you would add both of them individually. And you would just continue that down the page for each of your modules to build the structure, and it would control how students move through your course. The X is how you remove them. And of course, updating the module button is how you save your work.
So what does it stop them from doing, the prerequisites? From advancing in the modules, or like for visibility for the modules, or just advancing, or what does it do?
It keeps them from doing anything. They have to finish everything in the prereq before they can move into the modules that you've set that up for.
What do you mean with finish everything? Opening it up or completing like a task, or like, imagine it like it's a video or a quiz or
Good
completion?
question. So that's the next choice, requirements. So you have to click add a requirement and you have to choose what it is you want them to do. There's going to be 2 options. They have to do everything, or they have to do pick and choose. You decide. If you choose they have to do all the requirements, you can choose if they need to do them in order, or if it's a free range, they can do them out of order. That's up to you. And what that means, all the requirements, it's whatever you've put into a module. So if it's a page of information, they will have to have clicked on that page at least once and looked at it. It doesn't control any further details than that. But if it's a discussion that's graded, they will have had to have completed that assignment before it's counted. If it's an assignment, they would have had to submit it. If it's a quiz, they would have had to take it. So just depends on what you've chosen, and then of course, if you click select, students must complete one, you get a little bit more control. So on this particular one, I can see the drop down for what I've got inside my module. And I can say, for this page, I want them to have viewed it. For the next one, this page, I want them to have marked it as done. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a little checkbox that they have to say they did it. So it's just a little bit more of a tactile way to say, like, keep up with what you're doing. For this next one, I'm going to choose my assignment. Instead of just looking at the assignment, I'm going to say they had to submit it. And then for this one, I don't have to, so I'm going to actually say, no, take that away. And I'm going to change this. I want them to score at least a 75 before they can move on. So lots of layers, just add all of the requirements till you get it functioning exactly how you want to control it. And then of course the X to take it away if you've changed your mind, or in this case, I could have just hit cancel to just get rid of whatever I had done. So I'm going to click update to save. And that's really how you're going to create the structure and the students' access. Now, keep in mind, you also have individual options for the items you're putting in your course. So these have been talked about in previous sessions, but just to review, if you put a file, you can control files and when they are released based on availability options. So if you want to say a date and time, if you only want it open for a window, you have that control and you can craft that. The files options, though, are very different from your pages. Pages, you just get to turn it on or off. However, you can open up a page and see a little bit more options when you say edit. You'll notice that there's a couple of checkboxes here. So this one will add a date and put it on a student to do. It'll show up in the summary and the calendar. And it will also be on their stream that says upcoming, reminders. You need to do this page, Monday by 10 o'clock. And this is really good for just keeping them time management, keeping them on track. If you've got any sort of pre-work, so that's important for when we're trying to blend the online space with our classroom, right? We're showing up, we want them to have done some preparation. It's a really great feature to be able to remind them. The only drawback that I do want to make a note on is you can't control it if you're teaching multiple sections. There's only one date allowed. So if you've got a Tuesday section, a Wednesday section, and a Thursday section all in one course, they can just have the page of material on the same reminder. So for PT, in particular, I had advised their pages, if they wanted to use the to-do date, they go with the very first class, whoever comes first. So that way everybody knows at least a reasonable time. I'm going to click cancel here. And the next part I'm going to actually talk to you about is mastery paths. So I said that there was 3 ways to control students and your course structure. There's the course navigation, there is the modules, and then there are mastery paths. So I'm actually going to say Lab 1 materials is going to be allowed in my mastery path, and I'm going to get rid of the to-do. So I've checked this on a page, and I'm going to click save. The reason why that's so important is because mastery paths are actually how you control students' progress through the course based on their scores. So you saw that there was the option to do the requirement based on a score inside of the modules, but mastery paths is like leveling up. Let's say, for example, I want to create a course that has a novice path, an intermediate path, and an advanced path. So right now I'm actually in the process of brainstorming how to do an instructional design course for new faculty being onboarded, and they can, see some strategies on how to set up their instruction. Well, I'm thinking some people are going to be new to this. Some people might have a degree in education, and I want to be able to release content conditionally based on what they already know. I can set up some activities to be associated with some grades, and then I can choose that path based on mastery. So where do we go to do this? Well, there's a couple of ways. If you want pages included, you have to go to each page and check that box. And otherwise, you're going to go to your assignments and you're going to set up that sort of idea of what you had in mind. So for what I was saying on my course, it's going to be a little bit different. But let's just say I want to make quiz 1 part of a mastery path. And this is just for the beginning of my semester. Maybe I just want to make sure students are off to the right foot and give them a little extra information based on how they score on this quiz 1. And I don't have to do it for everything in the entire course. So I'm going to click my ... menu and say mastery paths right there on the option menu. And it's going to open up and it's already going to have those 3 paths that I talked about. I can change the scoring rules. Maybe you want to do that high performing is really at an 80. So there's a lot of programs I know that have different expectations. You can change that. And let's say maybe instead of a 40, I'm really concerned about anybody who performs under a 70. And really between the 70 and 80, I'm just not as worried. So I can control that here. And then each path you create by clicking the plus button. So pretty much exactly how you make a module and you can add new things, you can do that here. So I'm going to click the plus for people who are just doing really poorly on this quiz 1. And I'm going to say that they need to have access to the lab materials. And that's the page that I had said, please allow in Master Pass. I checked it off. I now get to choose it here, but it's the only one. You'll notice that's the only one in the entire list because I only turned 1 on. And I can also say maybe have a practice that they need to come in and they're going to have to do this assignment because they've scored poorly on this test. So I can add those items and it's basically going to create just a little post-it board here of what you've got going on. You can do and or, you don't have to include everything. And then of course you've got the options to edit them and then move them around as well. So I can also drag and drop. You are able to create the same, so you're able to create the same in 2 areas, right? So I can come here and I can say, you know what, I actually want both of these paths to be the exact same. And then I can just do the exact same thing I had done for that. So that's also an option. Depending on what you want to do, it's completely your choice and full creative freedom there. Obviously, I would save this. It's applying it to the assignment that I had chosen. And then back over in modules, it's going to have changed my information a little bit. I now have quiz 1. Hold on, let me find it. Maybe I don't have it. I'm going to add quiz 1 to this particular area. Now that may not be what's actually happening in this course, but just for an example. So I'm going to choose quiz and no, it's an assignment. Looking for it. There we go. Quiz 1 right there. And so now you'll see I have quiz 1 has the mastery paths link that I can get back to it. And then lab 1 materials, it's in multiple mastery paths because I had put it in both the middle and the lower. So that's a really introductory way to kind of consider this feature. I'm working on another course for the summer that I'm hoping to, really kind of sit down and come up with a solid instructional use for this tool. But of course, I'm willing to meet with anyone who's interested in using it to talk through your use case. Any questions?
Very useful, looks like.
It can be really useful. It takes a little bit of thought, of course, so that it makes sense and it, is good for your students instead of just preventing them from getting to something. But it's definitely a very useful way to kind of level up your automatic control of what they're experiencing in the online course. Because we really do these things when we're teaching in person. We listen to, oh, maybe somebody didn't answer correctly. If you're doing polling in your classroom and you're sort of temperature checking people's progress and understanding, and then you add in more information based on, sort of how you're reading the room. Same way, it's just you get to automate the process and kind of offload that into the online space. Okay, well, this is really, I mean, your modules, you get to control all of this stuff. You've got your plus button and your ability to add all the different options. You have the ability to rearrange, and you really do control what you've kind of got going on there. I will say, just as a reminder, that when you create modules, you are going to have certain things that you would remove from a module, just so that they still live and exist in the area that they were created. So these icons, this is a page. It's just a piece of paper icon with a folded edge. And when you remove this page from the module, it still lives over in Pages. If you really want to truly delete it, you have to go to the root area of what the item is and delete it in that space. So most of the time, you're just going to be removing stuff when you take it out of a module. There are a couple of options that you would not be removing it, and that specifically would be these last three things. The text headers, if you remove it from the module, that's really deleting it. External URLs, that's going to be linking out to somewhere else. You would really be removing that from the course. And then an external tool link, you would be removing that entirely. So these bottom three, that's going to work a little differently than all the rest.
Hi, Melissa. I had a question, and I hope I was able to submit the picture of what I was trying to say. Okay, so I was looking at kind of like the quiz security of the lockdown browser and those things. And as I was trying to play with it, I found there was a little camera over there, and I was wondering, is this proctoring service available for all of us, or it's an additional fee that we haven't purchased with the package?
Okay, yes, Lockdown Browser is available to everyone, absolutely. So what this question is about is a proctoring service called Lockdown Browser. And if you're familiar with it, great. But if you're not, it's actually just a product that when you associate a quiz with this tool, it will prevent students from being able to open anything else on their computer while they are taking that quiz, as well as an option to set it where they have to have a webcam on themselves as well. So it's two different features kind of built in. I'm going to show you.
So the camera is already, the camera option is already included?
Yes. So,
and for how long can we record?
It's not for recording.
So it's just for a, oh, okay. So
it's
we can
for live, like you're proctoring live.
Thank you. Yeah, it's because I was thinking that in ExamSoft, this feature, it's an additional fee and it's extremely expensive. And I was trying to say, oh, maybe we can take advantage of this. And Okay.
So really, there's a video that I sent out a couple of months back. The Lockdown browser has put together to show you how to do live proctoring in a Teams or a Zoom meeting. So just like we're right now, we're together in a meeting, and your class is it's virtual, right? So you meet like this, and you say, okay, everybody, we're gonna take the quiz now, and then I sit and I look at you guys on your cameras in real life while you're taking the quiz. For a security measure. And I'm happy to include that in the follow-up to this training. I'll send that information again because, you know, it's something to consider if you're teaching a course and you want to use quizzes to give a grade, but you want to be careful about, test security. It's built in. So let me start from the beginning really quick though. To turn it on, you have to go into settings to your navigation, and you have to drag it up into this top area. So if you don't do that part, it's not going to work for you. So that's how you turn it on. Go back to the bottom, click save. And then it's going to be over here in this area. I'm going to go and click on it. And it's going to have this built-in shows up for you to learn how to do what you're doing. So that's nice. If you are already familiar and you don't want to see these materials, you would just click this checkbox before you leave. I never turn this off because sometimes I feel like I just want to be able to get back to it to refer, because I don't like to use a lot of brain space to memorize steps to do things that I don't do all the time. So you continue to the Lockdown browser and it's going to pull up every quiz. Now, this is not assignments that you call quizzes. That's what this course has going on. That's not the same thing. These are actual Canvas quizzes that you've built questions, and they go in and take the test in Canvas. Any of them that you have built will be listed down this page, and you can simply select that you want to turn them on. So when you click settings, it's going to drop down and say, right now, default, you don't require it. This one is the option to turn it on. Then you get some more choices that you don't have to worry about, or you can, just depends on what you're trying to do. And then proctoring at the bottom is going to be the other option. Now, this is, so when I click require Respondus monitor, so here it's going to give you more information. Says it is monitor as uses a webcam to record the exam sessions. So this is a little bit different than the option that I'm familiar with. So it looks to be set up a little bit differently. So I'm going to look into that a little bit better for our particular use here at UIW and include that in the follow-up to this session. But you would continue to Respondus monitor to get to that. So I am going to say that I don't require this, and I'm going to look into that a little bit better and send you some more information. But when I click save and close, what I just did there was I turned Respondus Lockdown browser on. That quiz now can't be taken without the students using that product. The best thing to do if you're interested in this is to create a practice quiz, have unlimited options set, and let students go in to make sure they can take the quiz over and over and over until their technology is set up and functioning properly. So without a practice quiz, you will get students calling the help desk, and the help desk cannot help them. And it can create a little bit of, a challenge for your students to be able to figure out who they get back in touch with to get things working. So having a practice quiz with unlimited attempts, they don't need you. They can go back in, they can call Respondus for support, and they can figure out what's on their computer that's, preventing it from functioning properly and get it working before they go in and start your actual quiz. So really, really important. I've used it in classes of 220 students. And, the institution I was at prior to this had great success. Okay, so I will look into the details of Respond to Lockdown for our university more, and I will follow up with that in an email. Are there any other questions about any of the parts of Canvas? I'll give you a moment to consider the topics for today, and then I can stop the recording and we can talk about anything you have on your mind. So any modules, structure, or how to control your students' ability to get places in your course.
I now have a quick question, Melissa, for visibility for the students.
Mhm.
And that I know I had previously discussed this with you for the grade book. It's hard for me to try to see what do the students see when I'm on a student view because it sent me to the test student. So I actually had to enter things for the test student to see what the student have visibility to see or not. So my question was, I know that you can do in the settings the average for the course. You put a weight to the different sections and you can see. So when do the students have availability to see that average? Do you have to give them permission to see it? Because I thought I had, and my students could not see that. I had to wiggle around it to see how they could actually see the course average as it was calculated. Because it gives you the option to drop a quiz or to drop a grade or to add different things. But how do they see that calculated average?
So that's a great question. So there's a couple of answers depending. When you go to your course settings on the course details tab, down at the bottom, the more options, there's going to be a hide totals in grade summary. If that's checked, students can't see their grades summary. They can't see the totals in the summary. So that's important to make sure that that's not checked. That's the first step. You also have high grade distribution graphs. I usually like to tell people, if you don't want students to see how the whole class performed, then you'll want to hide the grade distribution graphs.
So I wasn't sure what each of these subjects really mean. That's why, because I get to that page and I'm like, okay, what does this really mean? What do they see or what they don't see? Can
That's a great question. So the best thing to do is to go to the help and to look at what is documented. They will show you screenshots. So in this help area, and I click Canvas and I go to instructor, I want to see what I'm talking about, and I put in graph distribution. That way I don't have to recreate a circumstance to get to go look at it. I can just come and see what screenshots that they already have. So they're talking about when we hide this, what does it look like? And they're showing you how to do that. But on the other hand, when I go to the students, I can see what students have going on without having to recreate that as well. So it works both ways. So when I go to graph distribution, and it will say, when I scroll down in their grades area, I'm going to scroll down and find exactly what you're looking for. So, I know I saw a really good picture of this. Interesting, not that one. That's why I was saving. I'm going to try a different grades. I'm going to find it. I'm not sure where it's at, but I'm going to find it for you and I'll include it in the follow-up because they do have a nice picture of it that shows you exactly what students see. And it's in their grades. And basically, when they go in, so I can show you when they go into student view and they click grades, right underneath whatever the item is, the quiz, for example, there will be a distribution graph underneath it showing the whole course performance there. It pops up automatically just because that checkbox is marked. And yeah, I would have to do a little bit of work to recreate that. I'd have to get some fake students, like, right, if there's only one test student, you can't recreate these circumstances. So that's where the guide comes in really handy because they've already documented it, but it's going to take me a little digging to find the right one.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So that's important. But I was saying that's the first place to check. The next part you need to look at is assignments. So this is where you set up exactly what you're talking about. So when you go to assign your group weights and you turn that feature on, then you would put in, say, this is worth 30%, these are worth 40, and the blueprint assignments just for demonstration purposes are worth 30. So I got my 100% and I click save. Then when I go back to my student view and I go to grades, I now have the assignments weighted and it shows them in the right-hand toolbar. So that part they can easily see. And then they also have a lot of other controls. So you can't demonstrate the graph distribution because obviously I don't have multiple students and performance for it to know what to graph, but you can see pretty much what everybody else would see. They control if they want to look at them by due date. They can put them in the assignment groups that you have over here so that they can go, oh, okay, my tests are worth 30%. Well, then test, like I can see that. They see the total columns at the bottom. They won't be able to see their totals if you've got that more options to hide the grade summary total.
Yeah, so that's what I was asking. So I guess I shouldn't hide that. So that should be on clicks if I want them to see the totals. I just didn't also know where to send them. So they should be able to see this. So which kind of instructions do you give them to check on their grade if they ask that?
I wouldn't say that you need to give them any instruction. They're going to be able to see it. It's going to make sense. They have some control, right? If they have grade calculate based only on graded assignments, they can turn these things on and off and get some strange behaviors kind of going on. But really, they've got the student guides, they've got student videos that are going to explain this all to them. And we have definitely started student communication is going out to give them training opportunities, asynchronous video resources and all that good stuff, so they're going to know. And the feedback for your pilot, right, everybody who's using Canvas so far says the students are enjoying it and are happy.
They are sometimes it's just they ask questions because they are not familiar with it and they don't know. But for the most of it says it's kind of self-explanatory and it's really in a logical way.
Yeah, the only thing you really need to be mindful of is if you choose to have your grade posting policy set to manually post grades, this will change the way their grades show to them because they're manually waiting on you to complete the process for everything. And when you haven't posted the grades, it's not calculating the grades in. And so what they're seeing isn't going to be very accurate. So that's kind of important to, if your process is to manually post grades and you take, time for that to happen, the in-between will affect them. Okay, any other questions about modules or structure? I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and I'll hang out to answer any additional questions.